All right, guys, loot warning for this week. The Hothead rocket launcher will be dropping for the last time forever. It literally goes away after this season. The good thing is that it's double loot week this week. And the Nightfall strike is inverted Spire, which is kind of on the easier side of things, but granted, guys, it's still a GM, which means it could still slap you in the mouth. But in comparison to like Corrupted from last week, this is way easier. Now, before we get into the actual guide itself, I do want to bring up Hothead. I think some of us may have really good rolls with this rocket launcher already, but again, we probably don't have it with those origin traits, both Stunning Recovery and Vanguard's Vindication. With that being said though, what is the God roll on this rocket launcher? Now for me, it changes up depending on whether or not I'm doing damage or just dealing with champions. For instance, Lasting Impression is a fantastic trait, but because of its delay, I don't really like this on champions, or most notably things like Overload and Unstoppable champions, because by the time it actually detonates, the champion is unstunned. We also have Clown Cartridge and Demolitionist. A question that I wanted to answer, does Demolitionist proc Clown Cartridge? As in, if I throw a grenade to reload my weapon, could I actually reload it with 2 rockets? At least from my knowledge, no. And even when I was testing this, every time I threw a grenade, I simply got 1 rocket loaded versus the 2 that Clown Cartridge would reload when you actually manually reload it. But in terms of God roll, I think you can't go wrong with Explosive Light, which is a nice bump of 25% damage, and that damage is immediate. You don't have to wait on it like Lasting Impression. Granted though, Lasting Impression is 20% more damage and you don't have to pick up an overlight. So balance those 2 things accordingly. So for me, Field Prep, Explosive Light, if I'm looking to get the most damage per rocket with Impact Casing, or Field Prep Clown Cartridge, which even though I'm not getting that 25% increase in damage, I'm getting 2 rockets per. And that would actually be the best damage dealer. And that's for just DPS. Tracking though is still very, very good, guys, especially against champions that are far off. And I would still suggest Impact Casing always, simply because it is 2.2% more damage. I mean, it's not like a huge game changer, but every bit helps. Now moving on to this GM, the Inverted Spire is our GM. Its modifiers this week include Empath, where we take increased damage from melees. Champions you'll be facing are Barrier and Unstoppable. All your Grandmaster modifiers, pretty much all shields, Arc, Solar, and Void. Quite a few Void, by the way. Incoming Arc and environmental damage is also increased, as well as acute Arc Burn. So essentially 2 back-to-back weeks of Arc Burn. Now my loadout actually went one of 2 ways. I was actually doing Arbalest and an Unstoppable Scouts Aces Embrace here with a Hothead. And this was of course on my Yeet Titan, taking advantage of that increase in arc damage for Yeet. Really, really good. Now on my Warlock, I was pretty much rocking Star Class with a couple modifiers, with the GN7 rifle and with the Horde, throwing fusion grenades, which again, just like last week's Nightfall, just because it's not solar burn doesn't mean this isn't still really, really good. These fusion grenades will mess some things up, especially when you combine it with things like Solar Fulmination, where you get that increase in ignition damage and radius. I'm still taking advantage of Classy Restoration, and again, a dim link to this build will be down below. And Les was essentially still rocking this build. Bombad was rocking Nova Bomb with Arbalest, but considering that this Nightfall is not nearly as punishing as Corrupted, guys, you can get away with using pretty much anything. Now let's talk about this Nightfall and how to optimize. The first thing you're probably noticing is, yes, you're going to be driving over Vex Milk. Now the reason why you want to do this is 2 guys go left, or 2 fire team members go left, and one of you needs to go right. The purpose of this is actually going to save you a bunch of time by pulling your fire team members to the next phase of this Nightfall without having to go through a bunch of ads to get there. Now, what your other 2 fire team members have to do is they still have to activate the gate, that Vex construct, and kill the ads initially in that area, but 2 of them should be able to handle that easily, while you or whoever that's pushing up needs to continue through the portals. You'll make your way all the way through, and when you actually get to this walled up area, sometimes it'll still be closed up if they haven't cleared that initial area and interacted with that Vex construct, but if they've already completed that, it'll disappear when you arrive and essentially pull them to that area, immediately spawning them, and you can drop down and start killing ads. Now I have a number of champions in this room, as well as a mini boss. You'll have an Unstoppable champion down there that's going to be tying up with all these different Vex. You'll also have 2 anti-barrier hobgoblins in the back, and all the way underneath you, you're going to have 1 Unstoppable champion and 1 barrier champion. Now you can deal with those champions down low, like all the way at the bottom first. We kind of go back and forth on this. Like sometimes we deal with the champs up top, and then after clearing out all these ads, we then look down low and deal with those champions. Now pushing all the way through, you'll be met with another barrier champion here in front of you. Be very careful if you try to 1v1 it. Push on through, you'll have a number of ads here that you can really just skip. And down at the bottom here, you'll be met with 2 barrier champions as well as an Unstoppable champion. Sometimes if they're grouped up together, you can just like yeet them all, or drop a Nova or something there to just do massive amounts of AoE damage and kill like 1 or 2 of these champs. But don't depend on that. I would prioritize an Unstoppable champion and then deal with those barriers. Next, hop on your Sparrow and make your way to where the drill officers are. are. Now, be very careful here, guys. You can get shredded even while on these sparrows. We like to actually move on up and jump on top of like one of these fire bases and deal with the barrier champion that's outside, as well as all the different ads, and then proceed to drop down lower and deal with these guys on the inside, these blood guard legionaries. Upon killing both of those guys, though, a couple centurions will spawn in, and then you'll go up and interact with his interface to open up the portal, push up, and you'll run into a bunch of ads as well as unstoppable champion. After dealing with that unstoppable, drop down low. You'll have a barrier champion down low, as well as some gladiators. Be very careful. Those gladiators have a lot of reach, and that increased melee damage means they're going to pretty much kill you every time they touch you. Now, there's a couple ways you can handle this room. With Solo 3.0, I feel pretty powerful, so dropping down low and like killing everything is not really that big of a deal. You can leave someone up top, maybe even 2 people up top, and have one person drop down low and interact with the interface. Now, I'm pretty sure you still have to deal with the champions, but essentially you can get 100% on the transit system resetting, which will allow you to move to the next area. You may have to still kill those champions. I'm not sure if they despawn or not, but you won't be subject to being overwhelmed like you would if you're down there. Granted, with the right build though, I feel like you can handle this area just fine. Upon getting 100%, you'll then jump in the portal and move across. Now, moving into this next area, you're going to be met with a lot of explosive boys with void shields, as well as an unstoppable champion here at the end. Deal with that guy and then proceed to move down, drop a well or whatever super you got. Deal with all these ads. There's a lot of void shields down here, as well as a mini boss and an unstoppable champion. Deal with these guys and then proceed to move to the actual rig area. Now, be very careful in this area, guys. You will die to like the most random things here, like a rock literally floating in the air will kill you. You'll have a barrier champion right here at the beginning that you need to deal with, and then proceed to move up to the next area, and you'll have 2 barrier hobgoblins here. Upon dealing with these guys, drop down. You can sparrow your way all the way to the boss, and honestly, the boss will be the easiest part of this entire strike. This guy spawns up. His head is the crit. I'm rocking Hothead, so it doesn't really matter. Even if you don't get the one face up top, it's okay. You can easily clean him up on the second level. And upon killing this guy, which if you're taking advantage of things like Hothead and Storm Chaser and other arc-related weapons, you should be able to kill him on the second floor. Double loot will rain on you. So guys, good luck this week. Again, Hothead, this is the last time it's going to be dropping. It's a perfect opportunity here to get a God Roll of this rocket launcher that is really, really good. And even though I know like everyone likes Storm Chaser and stuff, there are times where landing a crit is difficult. We used the crap out of Hothead last season during the Light Blade strike. So I do advise getting this rocket launcher, especially for arc burn weeks. So guys, good luck on the grind. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.